Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we are going to paint a scene in acrylic step by step of this wonderful lavender field and white chair. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
If you're feeling a little bit of deja vu, we did one similar, like this is a matching piece to the really big one we did. I just wanted to kind of visit the subject again because I was sort of feeling it this spring. I'm kind of
It's
feeling it right now.
that
Just look,
lavender
matchy,
time
matchy,
of
matchy, matchy.
year.
It's just a thing in my head. So I'm going to show you step by step how you can paint this. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to tell you the colors that I'm using. I'm going to tell you the brushes that I'm using as we go. You can use your own colors. Absolutely. I would rank this I believe beginners come in levels. Like not all beginners are the same beginner. And so if you are like not having a color and you're unsure what to do, definitely paint along today. Ask questions in the chat, the live chat, put those all in caps. But also do my beginner acrylic painting course because that will help you get those questions answered really quick and have an easier time, especially if you're considering doing acrylic April with me this year. Are you ready to jump on in, John?
I think so.
All right. Dun, 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 dun. So we have a 8x8 surface, as we like to do. I get asked a lot, why 8x8? That's because arbitrarily 4 years ago, I picked 8x8 as a surface size for acrylic April because I thought it was a nice happy medium and people could size up and down easily. And that just means you can make this a 12x12 or a 20x20 or 4x4 very easily. That's why I picked it. But there wasn't a deeper thought behind it than ease and convenience. So if you
Mm,
need to size up or down, please do so. I have wishes or intentions on her. Barbara is wishing for abundance of health, wealth, and friends. All those things together.
those are
And
good things.
those are really good things. And you deserve abundance. Barbara, you're going to get the abundance. Jeanette is wishing, is still really in this journey for her father to be free of fear and to pass over into light and love. And so I really wish that for your father. And I hope that he is guided to his next great adventure. Crystal is looking for healing of the spine because Crystal would like to be back painting. And so
I would like
spinal
that too.
health is helpful with that.
Get back to
Um,
painting. You hear the dogs.
Shortcake.
Shortcake and Twix are grumbling over position.
Candy is wishing for peace in the world, but forgot to include my dogs. And then me personally, my wish is safety for innocents caught in the paths of powers that are beyond their ability to control. So definitely wishing that for people. I think we're ready for step one, sir. I'm going to sip my
All right.
coffee.
We can do. Look at that.
Ooh, lavender chair and hat. We like to paint an abundance of lavender chair and hats. I'll tell you that right now.
Isn't that what you called this one?
Mm-hmm. Because you know I name things by keywords. Let's put out a little titanium white. You're going to notice by the size of my tube of paint that you need more white than you need any other color. If you're new to painting and you're wondering, what do I buy? You will go through twice as much white as any other color. And white's the first color you should upgrade into a higher quality of paint.
Mm, good
Ooh,
to know.
good to know, right? I'm going to put out some ultramarine blue and I'm going to leave it there. We're going to do the background in a mix of titanium white and ultramarine blue. What do you guys think of that?
I think that's pretty cool.
It's going to be very nice. Let's pick a big brush
Yeah.
that will paint all of it. I think I'm in the middle of washing my number 30, so that's too big. This brush would be too big to paint the background in, so I've got to find a smaller than that brush.
You could do it, but it would be like three.
Here we go. This is the Texture, and I love the Texture line of brushes. I still haven't decided how I feel about these short-handled little house-style brushes, you know, just generally. But I'm going to use it today. The width of this is 1¼ inch. What I just want you to realize is that when you're doing a background, you want a brush wide enough to cover your surface and firm enough to move your paint. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and titanium white and just loosely mixed, paint them all over the background in a middle range of color.
That's a pretty blue.
It is a very pretty blue, and it will give us a nice background for our lavender.
Mm.
If you don't have diox today, that's okay. You can just do ultramarine blue and quinacridone magenta. Or if you have another violet or purple, that is also okay.
What color nail polish is that?
This is Sally Hansen's Insta Dry 253 Pedal to the Metal. Yes, I like my nail polish like my paint, drying very quickly.
Because it was done briefly before the show.
My eldest, who's going viral on TikTok, by the way, right now, does really ornate nails and is always trying to get me to come. And I'm like, it's not that I don't like acrylic nails or fancy nails. I just don't want to sit there for the amount of time it would take to make the nails or to have to go back to maintain them. I like the quick dry nail polish. So it's just a blue background. Good place to start. This is called an acrylic ground. And what it does is it prevents white canvas from just showing through. It helps create a surface that the acrylic likes to stick to because acrylic likes to stick to itself.
I hear this is how the Blue Man Group got their start.
Yes, though you shouldn't use acrylic fine artist acrylic paint to paint your skin with. There's stuff in there that shouldn't go on your face. All right, I'm going to dry this.
Okay. That was a declarative. She's going to dry this now, and we're going to watch. And if you're at home, you should dry, especially if you're painting along. But if you're not painting along, well, you can just chat along with us because we have chat. And it's very nice to see everybody chat. And it's probably when I should tell you about things like linking in the description down below. There's like stuff like our website, gives links to where our like the mini books, the traceables, reference images, all that stuff's on our website, theartsherpa.com. It's also where you can find out about all of our patron stuff that goes on. It's on the website there. The calendar has upcoming events. And, oh, I heard the funniest thing. You can tickle the subscribe button. Did you know that? And then after you're done tickling it, you can ring a bell. I thought that was the funniest
to subscribe?
That I learned that you could tickle the subscribe button.
Tickle it?
Yep. If you tickle the subscribe button, then you can also ring a bell.
Make it go giggle,
it's
giggle,
like
giggle.
a game.
Tickle the subscribe button, ring the bell.
You just tickled it.
No, when we're live.
Just a little bit. Just
tickle it. Just a little bit. Oh yeah, don't hit unfollow. You know you like the goofy weird songs of snippets. You know you like it. Maybe you don't like it. Don't unfollow. You need to know how to paint. All right.
We teach painting.
We teach painting.
And
it's
the rest
so
of
helpful for you to know how to do it. So
is just like extra.
Extra. Now let's talk about this background layer. So we sort of have a diffused kind of bunch of lavender from about the middle range of the canvas up, from like the middle space of the canvas back. And it's a little out of focus. And so when doing things out of focus, it can help.
Is this a step?
Yeah. I told you, I shouted at you, step after dry.
Well, but
I told you.
There it is. It's so pretty.
Oh, that's right. You're on the headphones. You can't actually hear me unless
no, because you're talking. Like once I mute you,
he can't hear me.
I can't hear a thing.
I think I can yell at. No, these headphones work too well.
Yeah, they do. They work for their noise and like their studio headphones. They like block out all the noise.
So how are you doing today, Facebook and YouTube? Let's just take a minute because so much is going on in the world. Let's take a minute before we begin this next step and just breathe in, breathe out, and relax our shoulders and relax our minds. A lot happening out there in the world, but there's not a lot we can do about anything at the moment. So we got to just be calm and positively influence our local spheres, which right now is our canvas. We're going to be a positive influence on our canvas. We can do that. All right. So now I'm going to take you from that calm space and elevate your anxiety by discussing hog brushes. So hog brushes can be a bit of frustration for you guys because they can be messy. All right. I use my hog brushes the same. I use them for a number of years, right? And I can get very different results out of them. Right? This is pretty blown out. It's pretty fluffy. It starts out in a point, but then, as it goes, it gets fluffier. I have another one over here from a different line, and it's still a little more in point. So what I can tell you is there's a couple of things that impact your hog brushes, which is the type of maker it is and your use of it if you're pressing too hard. But even I, who am pretty consistent, I have a variance of experience, and that's okay if you do too. If you don't have a hog or a fan, you just want to pick the stiffest brush in your bucket, right? Because we're going to do some diffuse things. And I've got a 1-inch oval mop, right? Lovely, 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 which I'm going to do an interesting thing to. You haven't seen me do. I'm going to take it over to my palette and I'm going to mist it. I don't actually want it to be wet. I want it to be damp. What? I know. Just living on the edge. I'm going to get a little hog brush. I kind of want to be able to do larger areas, so I'm going to get this number 20. This is by Raphael. It's in the Desjardins. I can't say the name. It's a really good brush.
D'Artigeny.
Yeah. And I'm going to take a little of my ultramarine blue and my quinacridone magenta, and I'm going to make a very nice little purple.
Sorry to monsieur.
And I'm going to just kind of tap up and down little shapes. And you'll notice that the hog brush kind of helps that be out of focus.
Ooh.
Let's put a little more white into it so it's a little bit more diffused, desaturated. When things are far away, they can be saturated. And the dark purple has kind of a nice impact. What you don't want to do is have bright pops of white where you make TV snow. Sometimes we can do that if our paint is loosely mixed and we do a tapping up and down motion. We can make TV snow, not flowers. Okay. Notice that we're just kind of tapping up and down. Doesn't the blue give us a nice little backbite there? I am building little mounds. See how this makes little mounds? Make a little mound. Make a little mound, my friends. Make a little mound. It's a little booger of paint, and I'm just going to take that off with my brush.
That's texture.
We like texture. I get my brush very lightly wet, not deeply wet, but lightly wet. And the reason that I do that is so that it doesn't carry too much water, because hog brushes or stiff brushes can carry an unexpected amount of water. I'm thoroughly swirling this around. Ultramarine blue, quinacridone magenta, titanium white. You just have a big round brush, that's okay. You can, one of the big tricks that you start to figure out in acrylic painting is that brushes are a preference, but they're very rarely a mandate. Unless you're doing one-stroke painting where the shape of the brush gives you the result, for the most part, we're just kind of tapping them down. These are very diffused, aren't they?
Very.
I haven't even needed my mop so far because this has gone on in such a soft manner. I haven't had to soften any of the mounds. We're doing pretty good.
I think it looks pretty fantastic.
It's a start. We have to begin somewhere. Our ultramarine blue and our quinacridone magenta.
Let me see if I can adjust my side view a little bit.
All right, let's go, let's go. Now, behind the chair, a lot of this won't be in focus. It won't be, be sure to go overhead to side, because a lot of people have trouble orienting from the side.
So what I did is I rotated the side view surface until I can get up and rotate the canvas itself, until I can rotate the camera itself. So there might be little, you see the little triangles of black edges when I switch camera?
It feels like what I see on my surface is very different than what I'm seeing in the camera, John.
Oh, well, so watch. It's the same. Bing. Bing.
No.
Bing.
What I'm seeing on my
surface, well, your color. Okay, so you're in a bunch of light.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. What you can see in there isn't what I can see over here.
Okay, because I'm seeing a beautiful variance of color, and it looks like just blue and blue on the TV screen.
Yeah, no. You can see.
Do I have bad screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of little purples and blues.
Okay. So you guys at home, my monitors are not necessarily an accurate representation of color, but I do like to ask John on occasion, because sometimes we forget to, make those
As you can see,
adjustments.
there's much different
Yeah,
tonal
here and
variation.
here, it's just blue smudges.
Yeah,
All right, so if we're good, we're good.
I
I'm
think
going to
we're
take
good.
a little of my phthalo green and my burnt sienna and a smidge of my cad yellow, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to also make sure that coming between these is perhaps little peaks of green. Get a little bit of white into that and lighten it up a bit. A little yellow. I don't want it to be mint, but I also want it to be light in the background. So at the base of the lavender is where you're most likely to see the green. What you're painting kind of there is the base of those stems. And as it gets closer to you, you'll see more because you'll have more perspective in which the stems will show. Let's just keep phthalo green, burnt sienna, a little cad yellow, sometimes a bit of white. If it's too minty, we'll go back in with a little bit of yellow. We can always deepen it up. We can always lighten it up because this is acrylic. And we have lots and lots of space for it to be okay. Just making sure that in this distant, out of focus background, we have those values that we're seeing in the flowers. All right. I'm going to try not to. We got to give me a better monitor. Next upgrade.
Sure.
But we're going to call this one and then come back and refine it a little bit, okay?
All right.
I'm going to sip my coffee and take a deep breath. Is this the same as bokeh effect as CB? And then Amy would like to know, is this me doing color of the year periwinkle? I would say that periwinkle is definitely influential. And also purple is my favorite color. So this year expect to see a lot of it. It's just like I've been given permission to celebrate the purple. All right. Are we next step?
Yep.
I'm going to come back into my ultramarine blue and my quinacridone magenta, and I'm going to make a lovely little purple. And I'm going to be on the toe of my brush. And I will go ahead and create little mound areas here. You guys see that mound being made? That's lovely. Making the little spikes. Making the little spikes. Now, if I was having trouble with this brush, I would size down until I didn't. I'm not. But if you're having trouble with yours, it's okay to size down. See how we create those mounds into shape there using the way we pull our brush stroke in. All right, we're coming back, tapping up and down. Because even though this is very diffused, we still want to be able to show that this is got a little bit of shape. Now I'm going to come into my white. And I'm going to tap in little highlights. See those little highlights go in?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do me a solid?
Sure.
Can you peek in and with your eyes look at my canvas and look at my monitor and then think about your monitor? So I'm
Sure.
having so much anxiety that it looks so different. So different on my monitor. See my monitor? Looks terrible on my monitor.
You're looking through a two-way mirror.
There too. It's terrible. Looks pretty in front of me.
Oh.
So that's my worry. And I didn't want to not speak up.
Let me see what I can do to.
Now, if it's just my monitor, it's okay. I just wanted you to look with your eyes. Just to be a second set of rational eyes. I'm just tapping it down. You can see my brush is very messy. It's got a little bit of a point there, and I don't mind that though. I'm letting that happen. Maybe get a little more magenta into it. Okay, we know that the chair is going to be right here, so this is maybe going to be barely showing through the slats. I don't want to put most of my work through there.
What brush are you using there?
I am using the number 20 Raphael de Artigiani. It's a Dartingy. Because I know I'm saying it wrong.
Mm.
Tapping up and down, kind of creating again the layers of those clusters. Those go. Cleaning those out. I'm going to rinse out a bit. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to switch over to some green for a second. Make sure I don't have too much water on my brush. I'll wipe it off on a paper towel to be sure. I'm going to bring in a little irregular amount of peak of green, some depth. Peek in there, some depth. How are we doing, babe?
Just fine.
Was I being crazy? And it's okay if I was.
Oh, no. What I would say is it looks fantastic on the screen,
Okay.
but there are subtle differences. And this is part of the challenge of
What you do?
what I do. And that is, especially live, you change color palettes and all sorts of things that just.
See, that's one of the things that's nice about Acrylic April is because we prep it ahead, so you guys have all your resources and everything you need ahead of time. We can balance for each project. Might get a little brown here. Let's say there's a little bit there. Corner, that's kind of fun. Let's play. Wipe off again. A little more blue into it. I'm going to mist my palette as well.
All right.
Just water. Get that little bit of purple going. Now here it's just barely in focus. Right, so I'm going to be really careful right there about keeping that out of focus. And that's a hard thing to do, isn't it? To keep the focus. Now I'm just tapping from here through the toe. Again, pulling, making sure that this area is not in focus. You know, when you're trying to get an out of focus effect in your painting, important. That's why I like to use hog hairs, because naturally it doesn't give you crisp edges or sharp focus.
Mm.
It's not hog's nature. Tapping that in and a little out of focus. Blend it out there. It's still there. We can still see it, but we have little bits of. I'm turning it to get better angles. Turn your surface, not yourself. Right? You don't want to turn your body. You want to turn the surface that you have. I'm just going to kind of come along here and just sort of make sure we have a nice little seam. And little taps. Building up the clouds. Think of the lavender like clouds. Breathe easily. Now, what can go wrong for you in this area? If you do a uniform tap up and down of purple across, a uniform tap up and down, you're going to get EV snow. When you don't have variances of value and color, what you end up with is TV snow. It just looks like signal issues coming over the waves. So it's important to make sure see, that started to be snow, didn't it? Because it stopped having meaningful value. What do? I get it under control. I come back in with my brush and say, now you listen here. You are meaningful in this painting. You're helping me create the illusion of depth. Now I will come and kind of tap the edges of my surface just to make sure that coming around, it doesn't have a weird abrupt end. This is nice and framing. Oh my gosh, look what we did. All right. C. Blanton says that their daughter is going to love this one. And the bug is in the house supporting Amy. And somebody's husband was bad, but I don't know how they were bad. Bad husband. I'm on your team, whatever that is. I'm going to dry, then we're going to go on to the next step.
All right. So while we're drying, make sure you thoroughly dry between steps because you want to make sure that you don't have any of your paint lift up. So that just means that, you know, take your time, thoroughly dry, make sure that the paint isn't sticky or tacky so that as you go on to the next layer and start painting, it doesn't stick to the brush and peel up. And I think that's about it.
Yep. I'm going to put out a little dioxazine purple. Gives me a slightly different purple. Sometimes it's fun to use, sometimes it's kind of not fun to use, so you really kind of have to go by moment by moment. Now we're going to put in the more focused flowers that we really see here. So we have to do those with a little more thought and a little more consideration. And they're going to have sharper edges. And I'm thinking of using a filbert. You could use an Art Sherpa cat's tongue. I might use an Art Sherpa cat's tongue. A filbert is just a non-pointed. See, non-pointed. Good time to get fresh water and heat coffee. Wink, wink. All right. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to get a little bit of my white and purple together. And you can see it's pretty close to the purple that we mixed with the ultramarine blue and quinacridone magenta, but it's just got a lot more pigment and depth to it. I'm going to turn my canvas to the side just so I can have nice. I'm going to come on the edge of my brush and make considered shaped spikes. Thank you. Making sure I've got control over the water on my brush, as you do. Make sure that this has got, you know, dark spots to it. On lavender, there is this sort of, actually, stop for a second with me, guys. We're going to do a hack around. We're going to do a workaround to make some of the detailing easier when we come back. I'm going to take my my phthalo green and my burnt sienna. This is our workaround. Let's just paint this all a very deep green. And that way we're not having to come back and work the depth of green as deeply. Now here I'm going to make sure that my edge is not, see how I am softening that edge so it's not a clear edge. And remember over here, we've got a hat, we've got a chair. So some of this we have a lot of grace to not have to worry about too much. And then we're going to dry this and we're going to come back and go right back to doing the purple that I showed you. I just think that this is going to give us a happier little aspect here. I'm sure it's pretty deep. That's pretty deep there, isn't it? Quite dark. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. But I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. There we go. Sometimes you just have to stop and go, I have an easier way through. That's what you got to do. Rinse your brush out thoroughly, dry this layer. And the big thing here is to make sure this layer is fully dried so that the paint is bound. That way you're not lifting the paint as you paint. All right.
So, yeah, like we said, just make sure you thoroughly dry that. That's making sure that it doesn't separate. So a lot of times when we go to the side angle, you can see when it dries, it loses that shiny sheen to it. And once it's all the sheen is gone, then you want to make sure you give it just a little more time to make sure that it finishes all the binding down to the other layers below.
There we go. That's good. That's good. We're good now. All right. Yes, it's a number 8 cat's tongue. Thank you for coming in. It went up. Lori Rayner said, "Woohoo! I just finished 32 techniques and bam, Sherpa's live, making my day. I love to be there." Uh, oh, thank you, Crystal Blake. You know, we love what you have done for us. I know that you're going through some stuff and you're healing right now, but we so appreciate you bringing your heart and your energy and your positivity. And you make our life a little more colorful. Okay, so let's continue on with our purple now that we have made our workaround, right? Because even as we go, what will we have? We will have green peeking through the spikes. And you want spikes that are very kind of definitive and shaped. The closer that you get, the more you see a detail of a flower. Thinking a lot about flowers, and that's the thing, is like they each have like kind of a personality, but in the distance they're general little shapes. They're just little essences. But when you get into them close, right, we're going to come down to about here. And then as we get lower into the grass, into the grove of the lavender, it will be greener. And the cluster or the cloud of the flowers will be focused mostly on top. I can still, even though I know I'm going to have lots of out of focus stuff here behind the chair, I can still make the effort to make sure that what is peeking through the slats, right, behind the chair is still meaningful. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just making sure that peeking behind the hat. And it's also good flower practice for me. Sometimes in a painting, even when I know I'm going to go over it, I will practice the technique. Because why not? I'm here. I'm doing it anyways. It's a good time for me to let that go and give that a go. Even though I know I'm going to have a chair right here. Let's come back over here. We got to fill this in. It's not even full enough. Leave that. Up top, it's so full. As it comes down, maybe a little less. Going across there. See that go? Now let's grab a little bit of white. Let's really lighten it up. And I'm going to take little bits of this and I'm going to lighten up not every part of it, but maybe the side. Let go. Just using the toe of the brush. See it start to come out of the background. Again, you want to avoid repetition in snow. It will be about specifically choosing these little variances as you go through here. I can paint this from either side of my little brush where I get the spikes in and I let the flower tops happen. Make sure that's evenly mixed. We don't want to create those little spots of unexpected color. We want to know where our color is coming from. Flowers kind of float over their little space. We know the chair will be here. But this work will let little bits of this background peek out and feel more complete. Touching my brush up and down, I'm letting some of the dark paint show through. I'm letting the brush create the shape of the spike of the flower. I love spike flowers. They're some of my favorite to paint. Lupins and blue bonnets and lavender, fox, just all of them. They're just so fun. Love them in watercolor. Coming down here where it's going to be a little bit lower, I'm going to take my highlight and make it a little more blue here. You guys see that? My highlight's a little more blue where it's in the shadow. And bring some of this blue highlight over here as well. Let's make sure that some of these are a little more of that. So the reason we're not doing quite as white of a highlight is because these little plants are in the shadow. They're not as saturated in the light. That's why we go to the trouble of adding a little more ultramarine blue to that shadow. And get a little more white on my brush, strangely enough. Get a lot more white on it. It's not pure white though, is it? Let's capture some of the tops. Not all the tops, just some. Grab that little sprawn there. See, you start to see them in there and then you're like, oh, I'm going to pick you. Give that flower the rose, right? Give that flower the rose. Be real honest, The Bachelor is probably one of the few shows I don't watch. I did watch its Korean equivalent, Devil's Island, which was super good. I don't even know where it is anymore. I have so many, so many places I go. The two I'm like on bated breath for. If you just are looking for something and you like sci-fi and you've liked other recommendations of mine, man, Raised by Wolves on HBO Max. My mind. And Severance over on Apple. Apple's got several series that I just really adore. You see how that highlight just pulls those flowers to life? You are? You love it. I love it. Tapping my brush down so lightly on the edge. Do this with any brush. What it is with your brushes is you have to make friends with your brushes. If you have not done this, you need to make bestie best friends with your brushes so that any brush you have, and you'll catch me doing this where I won't change brushes on a painting where I'm just with one more brush. It's just me and one brush. We're brush monogamous. Now rinse out a little bit. Rinse out. All right. THM is saying that they are having to close and reopen their message stuff to get through. I'm going to take a little of my...
Sometimes you have to hit the little pop out button. There's a little 3 dot there thing. It'll help you reset that.
I'm taking my cad yellow and a little bit of my burnt sienna, and I'm letting it get a bit dirty with the green. I know. Sounds like the whole thing is going on there. And then I'm going to load this up on the little tip. Even more desaturated than that. There's, I don't know how to explain it, but there is this kind of pop of light yellow in some of the flowers, and I like to capture it. Not everywhere, it's just a couple places. So this is like, treat it like ghost pepper. A little goes a long way. Right? Little touches of this kind of speak to little elements of the flowers. If we get up over it, what you'll start to see is that there's light happening on the flowers. Where that is. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to take a little bit more of my burnt sienna into my phthalo green and my cad yellow. I'm on the toe of my brush. I for sure don't want this to be overly wet. I'm putting little stems that we can see in there. You like those little stems, those little peaks of stems? They're pretty nice. Make sure that there's a little of that over here. Maybe a little more phthalo green on the ones over here. They're a little more in shadow. They're going to barely be showing under the chair, so I don't want to not have them, but pull that through. Oh my goodness, it's so fun to paint, isn't it? There we go. Little short strokes, look at that. Making little stems. Get back into that crazy color I mixed earlier. And then into my yellow I had over here. And let's give it one more little variance. Just a little bit, right? If it gets too much, you just knock it right back. It's looking super good. All right. Sipping my coffee.
Is this a step time?
We're going to dry it and step it.
Dry it. All right. Thoroughly dry between the steps to make sure that the little flowers have their separation so they can be seen. This is just a nice, calm lavender painting today. just sort of relaxing, seeing the flowers come in. Don't forget, check in the link in the descriptions down below for all the stuff where we keep the traceables, reference images, the books, and all that kind of stuff. So you can find all in the description down below. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us and hanging out, doing this stuff. And don't forget to paint along. And if you're going to post your painting, put it up on like our Facebook group, the Art Sherpa Official, or any of those places is good.
How is this doing?
That's looking pretty good.
Pretty
Maybe a
good.
step here.
We're going to step here, and I'm going to have to get a chalk pencil because my Dritz chalk tools all fell in water.
Oh.
They're just drying out. Fun stuff. Let's come across the top, and I'm going to say that my chair, relatively is taking in pretty much this middle space, like between inch 2 and inch 6, if you divide the canvas by inches. And so based on that, up top, I'm going to make a line that goes across. And that kind of helps me find the top of my chair. Because I'm using chalk, that's incredibly useful for me. I'm going to go ahead and do a circle. Remember, guys, I'm going to draw this out, but you are welcome to use the traceable. A little ellipse and a circle. And then there's this great hat's fantastic because it kind of goes, it's so big. It's just like this really fabulous, like, no sun touches me hat. Right? You're your own weather system. This hat is so big. And I get that sense of that big brim. And that'll help me capture this part of the brim. Make the ellipse, make sure everything is the same kind of ellipse, lying down and back. It's pretty good. Now, do this. Oh, checking my vertices right now. Not something that's always a good idea to do. Check the vertices. All right, yes. Now I'm going to come from the top of said chair, back in a little bit. I'm going to go up and down. This is a T-square ruler, and it just helps me draw a straight line, which sometimes I really am challenged on, so I find it very useful. I'm going to make a nice wide lattice across. I'm going to come down here. And then I'm going to come almost all the way to the end here. Actually, it's probably better that I put my ruler up top because I went about, oh gosh, 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to make a slightly wider line. That will represent the front of the chair. Because as things go back into the canvas, they intersect, right? Lines bisect as they go further away from us. So when you're looking at a road, when you're really close to it, the lines are very wide apart. But if you look into the distance, you can see the lines converging together. And that creates the atmospheric perspective, linear perspective in this case, of the road being in a distance. We do that a little bit with our chair. I might move in my there we go. A little bit there. I'm going to put a little on front because we can see some stuff. We'll say, hey, there's some chair support afoot, right? We want some slats going back. we're going to have a basket here. And I may move this. So what I do when I want to erase is I just take my damn finger and I just erase. The trick to this working is I don't press too hard, right? So I haven't pressed so hard that I've grooved my canvas and my paint isn't still wet. Making a little vertical line here, right, for an armrest. Little square at the end of it. My little chair and where my armrests are. This little armrest is right here. I'm going to actually kind of bring it in more to the creating that little sense of armrest there, armrest there. Let me dry this with my hairdryer just a little bit so my pastel will stick, and then I will sketch this in with paint as well.
So sometimes if you don't, if your paint isn't thoroughly dry, then I was just saying that if the paint isn't thoroughly dry, sometimes the chalk won't stick to it.
Yeah, and I may have to do paint anyway, so this is about to get super exciting. Guess what? We've been painting this in.
Is that
Excited
be a
about
step
that?
then?
I'm going to take a sharp brush.
Is this same step or different
Same step because the
Same
chalk
step.
isn't working.
Okay.
So I'm going to use a number 8 Raphael Texture Synthetic. And I'm going to get a little bit of white and ultramarine blue. Mist. I'm going to sketch up my armrest first. Sometimes that's the thing that happens, like the tool you're using just isn't going to work for what you're teaching. So you just go, that's fine. I'm going to just sketch it in paint. That's really all you can do sometimes. But you guys have the traceable, so your job is much more relaxed.
That's available in the link in the description below.
Yes, and it's not cheating to use it. I'm coming across here. If this line goes here, this line is here. You just have to make sure that your structural lines are parallel to each other. That's the big thing that you're trying to do. I don't have to worry about every slot in the chair. And the reason is that I have a basket that's going to be at the front of the chair. Pretty significantly so, too. So where the wood is solid, coming up the sides, and then the basket's going to come out like this and that. Making sure the basket is big enough. Just sketching in paint. Making a little ellipse kind of to talk about the top of the basket. I can even add a little like maybe brown just so I'm like, oh, this is basket. See? when you sketch and paint, you can be sort of general like that. I want the basket to flare out at the top, so it's whiter at the top than it is at the bottom. It is easier for me to make something bigger than smaller, so that's why you see me coming in and enlarging after I do initial sketch lines.
Are the materials going to be the same for acrylic April this year?
Yes. New brushes have been listed. They are in the Acrylic April group, and I believe the blog has been updated, and the page has been updated over on Acrylic April. So I was kind of like, we hit everything.
Nice.
Yeah, we like to get there. We like to do that. I'm gonna take a little of my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna, and I'm just, again, I'm sketching. This is just same as what I do for traceables, kind of blocking in where you're kind of like, how do I want this?
Mm.
Okay, back into my white. So our chair will go back like this. The arm on that chair. And this arm will go back towards our hat. Let's put out our yellow ochre while we're sketching it out, because then our yellow ochre, we can kind of sketch out the hat and keep these ideas separate. If this is hard, just use a traceable. Nothing wrong with it. Oh, but hopefully with this, you'll be able to be, oh, I see what she was talking about with the hat. The first part of the ellipse to set is the hat brim itself, because once you have that set, then you can come up and very easily capture the top of the hat. I'm just sketching in, guys. Sketching with paint. You can sketch with pencil, you can sketch with Zero paper, you can traceable, or you can just...
Watercolor makes it just easier to make changes.
The watercolor mix?
Pencil.
Chalk pencil is just easier to make changes, but it's not necessarily the easiest for you guys to see at home, and sometimes, it is just better for me to come in and be like, all right, this is what we're going to do. Where I kind of just sketch it in and go, okay, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, it's going to go here. And you guys can see it in the paint easier than you can the chalk.
Yeah.
Even the sense of where the hat is easier to see, isn't it?
Oh, much.
Now coming out from the hat is the top bar. We're under some low pressure in certain areas, and the reason that we're under some low pressure in certain areas is that we've got, I'm going to turn my canvas to the side here just so that I have a better chance of doing a pretty straight line.
Mm.
Oh, the back of the chair has a support slat that goes across. And then I've got slats here. And then I can always come in and see, trim the slats with a little bit of green. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I can kind of make adjustments to the chair. And I will just very loosely sketch in its little legs. I know I've got flowers coming across here and flowers coming across here. And sometimes, and I can just say this is just one of those true things, you know, if you're going to have flowers all through here and you're going to have you don't have to be that perfect. You just, oh, thank you, Deborah Evans. You've just got to be kind of generally correct. I'm going to look at my chair straight on because sometimes when you see stuff straight on, you'll be like, wait, what? What I'm doing is just kind of erasing behind there, using that textural pattern just so later I can come in and not have difficulty. All right, let's dry this. We got through that step. Not an easy step, but we got through it. Let us continue on after we dry the canvas.
So, got it all dry, all sketched in. You can find a link to the traceable in the link in the description down below in case you want to, you know, have a little easier time in that process. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, getting that that part in can be, you know, made a little easier if you use traceable, and then you can use any of the transfer methods of, you know, either using tracing paper, serial paper, or just sort of, you know, scribbling on the back with some with a pencil and then drawing over to transfer it. But she's got information in there on how to do all that stuff.
I do? I
Yeah.
do. What are we talking about?
Transfer.
Okay. So I'm going to paint my chair in first. I'm going to use a little of my titanium white, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue. All right, let's start with that.
Oh,
And
gotta give him a step.
Yeah, give them a step. Burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, titanium white to get our gray. So like on the little forward-facing handhelds, I'll just make sure that that's a little bit darker. Maybe a little bluer. Maybe even a little grayer up front. So I'm just going to kind of use values and things. Get a lighter gray by adding more white to it. Now there's kind of a bit of a up here. If I put a lighter color, it'll look more like the top. And as I come forward on these slats, I might add a little more light to them. A little lighter there. Put that across. A little support back. I might get into the darker gray right there. And just loosely sketching in that chair. While I'm here, I'm going to get a little bit of my burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Make sure that the nice opening is where I want it to be. I'm going to pull across. You just want it to be nice oval, a little more open to the front. And that way we can show the flowers coming out, you know, of the basket. I'm going to say, I'm going to put a little more burnt sienna into it. I'm going to come over from the side here. Add a little more shadow. Maybe a little bit more where the wood sits. So we're just starting to think about the shape of objects in the space. You guys seen that?
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I added to my want paint list. You got Ashley saying so many paintings that they want to do. And I understand that. I really do. I also have probably, for every one that you guys get on the channel, have 20 or 30 reference photos saved that I thought would be nice
Yep, it's
to
true.
have. I'm going to put a little pink into my gray mix here. Kind of unexpected, is it not? Coming over from this side maybe a bit with a little bit of a highlight. That's fun. A little more ultramarine blue into that. Maybe a little bit under this armrest here. Let's give it a shadow, right? A little purple for the shadow coming back. And maybe a little purple for this inside shadow. Under. I'm just using this bright brush. And come across there with a little bit of purple. So you can use those colors as well as shadows. Add a little ultramarine blue to it. A little bit on the inside of each slat. All right, back into my white. This time maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. Shocking. More mist. That's just water. I'm just trying to make sure the flow of my paint is improved. A little bit of highlight there on those outside edges. There we go. You guys have this. It's okay. These are okay. You got this. On the outside edge of that chair. And again, remember there's a lot of flowers here, so there's so much forgiveness for everything that you have going on. A little highlight there. Highlight there. Let's maybe peek a little bit on that. Little dry brush of it, but it still has the shadow going down. So you see we're starting to get a little bit of shape and shadow to the chair, aren't we? Little blue back here. Bring a little blue back up on these three. Just kind of shading it. Let's look at it from a distance, and now we kind of have this chair kind of popping a little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
Soften this shadow here. Strengthen that support there. If I can see it overhead, that would be super helpful, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Just capturing that line down there. So sometimes I need to see it overhead too, guys, because it helps me see where I'm going. Sometimes you have to see where you're going. Have clarity of direction. Little vantage. Bring a little highlight down on the inside of that. Paint a chair. Paint a car, paint a chair. A little bit, just on this edge here. Still in shadow. Still all that going on. Just a little bit. And come across here. A little bit on that far side. And what's nice is because it's wood, the rusticness of it will always kind of play for you. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's call it a step.
All right.
Goodness gracious. It's so weird how a chair goes in, isn't it? Isn't it bizarre? And again, if the object isn't building in your head the way you want, just use the traceable. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, in the placement of these objects, the next thing I want to get in are the hat and the basket. And what's great is they're in similar colors. I'm going to continue on with this number 8 Raphael Textura. The important thing to realize is that it's a bright brush, and let's look at it. It is about 1 centimeter in width. See that? The length across is 1 centimeter, and it's a short length out on the filaments. That's what makes it a bright. That's what does that. That's what do. All right. I love my all yellow ochre. I'm going to mist everything. I'm going to add a little bit of my cad yellow. And we're definitely going to get into the white. A little lighter than that. It's always fun. The hat being mildly golden actually does an amazing job in this piece. Directionality on these brush strokes around the hat are a big deal. The way you stroke the brush around helps create the rustic nature. It's a little lighter on the outside here. So you come back on the hat part where it goes up into the brim, but then bring this around, on that directionality as well. My paint is drying out so fast today. There are days that happens. I don't know if you guys... Hi, Judy. Oh, that is so sweet. Judy's got a message saying, hey, it's time to get on, and came and got on, and I think that's wonderful. Thank you. The message went up kind of fast. Could you scroll it back? I couldn't see it, and I really wanted to read it.
Let's
and
see
sometimes
here.
they go fast. You guys chat so fast.
It is. There's a lot of chat going on.
So scroll back up to Judy. Judy Demi, down. Oh, no, you went there. There you go.
There it is.
My granddaughter is 5, and we were in TJ Maxx. Great place to be. And my phone went off, and she checks it and said, oh, Miss Simmons is on, and we were missing out. So we hurried, and so we watched on my phone on way home, and now, hi, Judy and granddaughter. Okay. So we kind of trimmed the brim in a lot, and that's because we're going to put it back. I'm going to get into my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue. I'm going to come in and come down. And then I'm going to get back into my light color and come on the top, making an ellipse. That's a squish circle, isn't it? The big thing is I want my ellipse to touch the far side of the hat. I'm going to move this a little bit so that I can get my ellipse circle a little easier. And I'm a little bit wider at the back here. I do want it to be straight line down. And if I have to, I'll come back with my hat color, like you do, and trim. All right, let's get a little more white going.
Judy's very excited to have you say hello.
I'm very excited that you came today. Thank you so much. I come on the front. You can see I'm using the brush to create that straight line and then curving it back. Yes, that's doing pretty good. Now let's let this have a dry. Let's let it have a dry, and let's think about our basket. Now our basket is a similar kind of range of color, but it's more of a grade one. So I'm going to take my yellow ochre and mix it into my burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And I want to make sure that I've got a nice deep base. Now when I get white into this, that's going to be my slack color. So it's also neutral, but it's not the same gold as the hat, is it? I'm going to pull down a little bit of the color to speak a bit about inside. I'm going to come here and I'm going to make little even rows. I'm going to go all the way across. And then I'm going to come between those even rows. See? Almost like a brick. Now we're going to start the basket. And I'm kind of turning around just so that when it comes around behind, that sort of basket texture is still there. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting that basket texture there. All right. Karen, thank you very much. It is a fun, nice trick. I like it quite a lot, actually. I do. I'm going to get a little of my more golden color. Very hard to control the water today for me. And kind of bring a little top of that there. And just talk a bit about some of that down low. Let's add some highlights to the basket. A little dimensionality, a little thoughtfulness to it. And then while that's having a moment, I come back up into my hat. And try to get this back brim where I want it. Sometimes I turn my canvas to see if I can get it, or sometimes I lift up. Because depending on perspective, that's when you can see things differently. And bring a little bit of a dusting of some of this like kind of purple coloring over the yellow. It kind of creates that sense of shadow, doesn't it? There's just a mild one right here on the hat. I want to play with that. Let's scrub my brush. I'm scrubbing my brush. Scrubby, I don't know. I scrubbied it.
Ooh, could you talk about the gold again?
The yellow ochre.
Mm-hmm.
What am I,
So I didn't
I
quite.
don't know in the context I to talk about the gold is it's a little bit of the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue that made a gray, and then I worked quite a lot of the yellow ochre into it and added white. I hope that's what we mean.
I think so.
Putting a little shadow at the back of the hat, as you do. Oh, and it was also cad yellow and titanium white. I'm gonna get a little bit of my white here and kind of tip the front of the hat. Let's tip the front of the hat. You got this, guys. Tip the front of the hat. I'm gonna tip the front of the brim here as well. Kind of include some of that highlighting in the lips at the top of the hat. That's I feel like the marvelous Mrs. Maisel might wear this hat.
Mm.
After a hard day being funny. That could happen. I feel like a little bit of my cad yellow and some of my titanium white and kind of come here and just try to capture that story. So the hat should have a bit of a shadow, if you're seeing it now, from the brim, from the top of the hat. What is that called? The head part? John knows hat parts. This is the brim. What's this part?
I don't know. Top
This,
of the hat.
the top of the hat casts a shadow across the brim of the hat.
I am not a hatter.
Not a hatter? You're not a mad hatter?
Definitely not a hatter. It's the mercury fumes that make them mad.
Is it? Oh, that's right. It was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Capturing that light. I know I get a little involved in the hat. It's true. It's true. I get a little engrossed in it. Get a little I think I'm gonna take a little of my burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and I'm gonna kind of just make sure I have some little sort of shadows on either side of my baskets. I'm also going to take a little bit of my Doc's purple and my ultramarine blue and kind of add some deep shadow. Kind of shading inside that basket a little bit, as you do. Put a little highlight, a little bit of highlight texture on the basket to just kind of get that color going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking a little bit of the hat highlight. And that there. All right, let's get back there and see where we're at. I think we're pretty good there. Look at this. And we haven't even put any flowers in the front or behind or anything. What do you guys think of this?
Turning out pretty good.
All right. Do we have any show questions that are accrued in our little show question area?
Let's see here. I think the front of the hat, maybe the crown.
Thank you for that. The front of the hat is the crown. Thank you.
Top of it, maybe the crown.
Ashley, I see, is pointing out that if you're really, really new to painting and some of this feels a little overwhelming, couple things to know. Being a beginner is an actually pretty long journey. The distance between not painting at all and painting your own original work is a process. And I have broken it down into 3 stages. I call 1 hoot, 2 hoot, and 3 hoot. 1 hoot is where you're not really sure how to exchange colors. You don't really know how value works. Most of the terms, you maybe know how secondary colors are mixed, but you're not entirely sure of that. Tools, materials, different types of paint, like all of that feels very new. That would be 1 hoot painter. And I have a course to help you catch up and be like, know all that stuff real fast. And Ashley's pointing it out, and it's free. And you get a certificate if you
That's
want
great.
one. You get a certificate. So you can be like, no, I know this stuff. I did it. I did it. I did it for real. All right.
We give them a step.
I step them. I'm going to give myself some fresh water. You step them. And we read any, is there anything, we're good, caught up on questions from the show chat questions?
I think so.
Okay. So these flowers here and in here are very detailed, right? These are, we're really seeing them in much more detail. This we see in much more detail. So we actually kind of want to get a little more specific about how we paint them. And I think that I'm going to switch to, I might even go in as far as says I'm going to go round, synthetic, and perhaps round hog. See how those are? And the reason I'm picking these is so that I can really play with the texture and detailing of the flowers. But first, especially in the basket, you want to kind of capture the depth. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue and Dox purple, which is pretty powerful stuff. And I'm going to take my bright brush here. Oh no, it's going to end up being my bright brush, isn't it? Ah, it's going to be. I'm using the corner. So I'm using the corner. And we're painting kind of the mass of it. Right? 'Cause there's this sort of mass even going up into the hat, crossing that brim. And it's when objects layer over each other like this that things start to feel like they have placement.
Hmm.
Come along there, fairly tidy on the inside of the brim for the most part. But as we come right up here, guys, I might just be on the bright the whole time for all the flowers. This is pretty great. This happens to me a lot. This is our Raphael Textura number 8. If you're looking for the brush. Textura is very good for heavy-bodied acrylic. Pushes it around. If you're having trouble finding the Art Sherpa brushes, it's a good alternative. So you see how we have that sort of line of texture that's just real defined? Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Just the corner of the brush. This will happen to us a lot during acrylic April. We'll get into like a brush and then we'll be like on it for a whole video. Sorry. It does just happen. That's pretty terrific. Now I might do a similar deal here, except that, you know, it's a little bit lighter up front. However, I feel like sometimes contrast gives this a lot of power.
Hmm.
First, let's come across and kind of, we know that this goes almost all the way here, doesn't it? We know that. It's a little run of flowers. I'm tapping up and down. See, it goes tap, tap, tap on the corner of the brush. I know I'm going to be back making lighter ones, but this does give me a sense of the kind of contour and texture and shape that this plant would have. Well, this is just my unexpected lavender brush. Okay. That's pretty good, guys. All right, that dark purple, and we just got all that shape in. That's just so nice. All right, now let's take a little bit of our purple. Let's get some white involved in it. Little blue, little white. Loading it up on the corner. So we're adding these little highlights. But we're not just adding these outer edges of highlights. We have to think of this bouquet as being very full. Because I want these to kind of arc this way and spill out, you will sometimes see me turn my canvas towards the left to make sure that I'm holding that space. What we don't do is paint away all of our dark. Our dark, that contrast, it's essential. That's where the bouquet is. We can't see the flowers if we don't have the depth. You've got this. This is in you. You can do this. You are capable of anything. Look at that. So as we pull forward, right, we see more and more of that kind of like, it goes from softer to like more focused and more focused, doesn't it? It's like we're bracketing our mind. Almost there. We're getting there. We have like a ribbon and some flowers, and that's it, guys. And we have done it. So sometimes things seem simple and are complicated. Sometimes things seem complicated and they are just so simple. And it really is about the skill set that you currently carry. So when I say a painting is easy and you find yourself struggling with it, it's not that you're not artistic. Of course you are. You had imagination, you thought you wanted to be a painter, you wanted to have a painting day. You're artistic. That's all it has, that's all it takes to be artistic. But sometimes we have more imagination than skill. And when our imagination greatly exceeds our skill, that's when we feel something's hard. And the fix to that is super simple. Increase the skill. Figure out where you're struggling. Is it color mixing? Work on your color mixing. Is it brushstroke? Work on your brushstrokes and brush control and understanding your tools in a more kind of fundamental way, right? Is it really like we're doing a metal study, right now, and we actually just got through with the lips. And the point of that is that if there's a topic you need to know more about, you do a thing in art called study. If you need to know more about flowers, what do? You paint a bunch of flowers. You want to know more about water, you paint water. You want to know more about painting cars, you do what I have not done, you paint a bunch of cars. But because of you, I painted more cars than I did before, and now I'm better at painting cars. I can't even say that I can't paint cars completely anymore because I've painted some cars. Now I'm saying I'm not that great at painting cars. But if I wanted to change that I'm not that great at painting cars to I'm great at painting cars, the only way to fix it would be to paint a bunch of cars. You know, there is talent, of course there is in the world, people like Mozart and stuff. They have that weird vision and they're child prodigies and they can do math in their head and they're the Sheldon Coopers of the world. Right? But that isn't what's required to be an artist. That is in no way what's required to be an artist. Most of what art is doesn't really have anything to do with talent as much as it's about skill and perseverance and you learning how to tell your life story through your creative medium. I don't want white, but I want it to be fairly light. See how we put a little color in the flower?
Mm-hmm.
Corner of my brush. Not even having to use like a round brush. All the time I think I have to use a brush and then realize I'm in my brush and it's fine. I'm in my brush and it's fine. Getting some highlights on these little flowers. Oh, little bits of sunlight maybe caught some. Now the trick here is where the outer value is very light. I kind of make sure that I have a halo of dark around the highlight so you can really see it. And you guys have this. You've got it. There you go. Look at that popping up. Now the ones up front, they're much lighter, right? So I'm just tapping, 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 tapping. Every little tap represents a little. So these are built of lots of little. Okay, done.
It's okay.
These are built of lots of little flowers. And so every time I tap up and down, right, that's another little cluster of flowers that I'm representing. You ever just really examine lavender, besides just smelling it, which is also super enjoyable to do, right? Smelling it. It's you can really pay attention to how nice it is and its structure. Most spike flowers are built of lots of little petals, blooms, or individual groups. You can see that we're just making the front a little bit lighter. We're just taking our time. We know we got this. We've got this. You've got this. You're super good. Look how good you are. Paint and stuff. There's a big chair, big 20 by 20 that would match this real well. If you need them, you want a sister painting that we did on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Big canvas. And you could size this up to the same size and have a pair if you wanted a pair. Let's look at overhead and see what we think. That's pretty good. Pretty okay.
Pretty good, yeah. You step.
Step it.
All right.
We painting. I'm only going to get out a little bit of black. I don't think there's anything. Karen says that they love how much I'm breaking these pictures down into such doable steps. And Jen Butterfly says, I use my Amazon packing paper to line whenever I work. I hopefully catch the mess. That's always a good one. Puppy pads are also weirdly good. And was it a 16 by 20 or was it a 20 by 20 chair, C. Blyington? I think it was a 20. I think it was a big square because I remember I had a leftover big square canvas is what had kind of going on. All right, I'm going to get a little of my black. On a number 4 round brush. Press down and lighten up and a nice little ribbon. Maybe the second ribbon kind of comes here and goes over the chair. That could be lovely. Yeah, it's a little thin, so I'm going to dry it and add another coat.
Okay. Sometimes it just requires a couple coats to get good coverage, so you may have to just do a little quick dry and then go back over it with another layer so you get the fully opaque ribbon appearance. So that's could be normal. Just having to dry and do a second layer.
Yeah, I think I over thinned it too. And that'll happen to anyone, actually. I'll just over thin the paint. And be like, darn it. I've improved the flow, but I've lowered the pigmentation. All right. Now I'm going to take, I bet I can do it with my ultramarine blue and a little bit of white.
Okay.
I'm going to add some highlights. Kind of coming down. just to sort of imply twist in the ribbon. Ends up being a little bit gray. And a little bit at the front of the hat. It's just nice. It's a thing that you can do. To make sure that your ribbon looks like it's a bit more in motion. And the little bit of highlight just kind of implies that it caught a reflection or a little sunlight caught it, because black is quite a reflective color often.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that go. What do you guys think? Look at what we did today.
This is pretty fantastic.
This is pretty okay. I'm loving it. I'm super loving it. I don't really think I would do another thing here.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this a step or a sign?
I think this is a sign. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I think this was a good relaxation segment of the day. Like we spent a minute in the Saturday and we put down our worries and we painted some flowers, and that gave us a break, right? And sometimes in life, just taking a little emotional, mental, physical break, resetting your space mentally, it can make a big difference in every part of our lives. I appreciate everybody who came today. Thank you so much for coming. Let's grab our signing brush. I've got a number 1 monogram liner.
Now, while you're doing that, if one were going to go try to find the exploding TikTok child of Honey's page, where would one look?
Dude.
Can we put the link in the description or something?
If anybody has it, you can put the link in there. I'm not a bad mom because I did celebrate the win. I completely rewarded viral success.
I don't even know how to give a TikTok link.
Yes, but if anyone knows and follows
I don't
Honey,
know how to do that.
You're welcome to throw it up there.
Well,
Honey they are doing so well. I'm really proud. Not weirdly art related. It's weirdly clown related. My kid's a clown. The irony there.
That may be a genetic thing.
It might be. I was at one point a professional clown myself. You know.
One could argue that I'm a professional clown now.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much. Dee's saying that the highlight on the ribbon helped that ribbon feel like the ribbon. Little touches, little weird things. Listen, so don't go join TikTok. You know how sometimes there's stuff that people are upset about and it's not even true? In this particular case, factually, based on research and facts, independently across many different groups, it is true that TikTok can possibly collect your data. Probably is.
Yeah.
And any software like that is made in China is owned by the Chinese government. And so if that was a concern for you, and I'm just saying that to be very forward, here's what, we were all on there when it was Musical.ly and nobody knew. They already got our data.
Social media people, we have to go explore those forward edges of social media, even if we don't necessarily, always want to. Because that's just part of the gig.
Well, and we were already there. So this is where I'm at on this. And I want you just to hear this from me, because I know sometimes you guys trust me, and at least know that I looked into this in depth to make sure it wasn't just a rumor or hysteria. John worked in China for a long time. It's not unusual. Anyways, so don't download TikTok.
Yep.
I'm not encouraging that. You might want to watch the 23andMe stuff too. But outside of all of that, right? But if you're already there, go ahead and follow me and follow Honey. If you were just there already, there it is, Sugar Frog. The bug has it. They got it. Thank you so much.
Oh, look, there's an @ and a TikTok and a thing.
Sugar Frog.
That's her.
right? And
Um,
so,
uh,
and another thing, I'm a creator and I'm online, but my kid is also a creator and is online and they do what they do. But I'm still their mama and very protective. Just to let y'all know.
mhm.
There you go. So, but don't. I'm not saying download. Please don't download if you don't have. I wouldn't even encourage anyone to get Facebook anymore. I heard MySpace is back.
That's okay.
I was thinking of recovering my account over on MySpace.
I also don't suggest cryptocurrency or NFTs.
Yeah, I do not suggest. You won't see us do an NFT over here.
No.
You might see just us do an AFT.
Yeah.
AFT every day.
Actual
Things.
things.
Actual things.
Because that's what we sell on our website is actual things.
Actual things. So, but that's where we're at on that. And again, not to is seriously fantastic. TikTok honey is killing it. Yes, honey is killing it. Tammy's like, apparently I'm too old for TikTok. It's okay. You know, the here, let's have a little moment at the end of our show. At the space that technology grows and the world changes and evolves and updates itself. And let's be honest, I think we almost have like whiplash since 2019, since
Mhm.
COVID hit, and just the world has just changed every 50 seconds, and everybody's on a hill yelling about something. I have come and I have a therapist, I see a therapist, and apparently I'm in a nihilistic existential crisis. So full candor there. But I don't think I do something because I'm on social media, and I believe no matter where you are, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or wherever you are, Pinterest, I think free art education helps everyone, no matter where you live. Honestly, on TikTok, my personal feeling is it's okay. I think it'd be good for anyone everywhere to paint. I think people make better decisions when they are creative, and I think that they can hear themselves think when they're creative. And so I'm for that. But I don't think everything needs to be adopted by everybody. And I don't even think that here's something if it makes you feel any better. Many people in their 20s do not do certain social media platforms because they're just like, it's too much. They filter.
Mhm.
They don't sign on to everything. They pick what works for them, and mostly whether their parents aren't, but they pick what works for them. And I think that that's okay for us too. It doesn't mean we're being left behind. It doesn't mean that, we're not on the edge of things. Um, Michelin is saying that they also see a therapist, and then Mary Meyer's like, I need to upgrade my cell phone. I'm not sure if I want 5G.
Uh, it's technology is one of those things. What I would say is that I don't know what G I have, but I don't notice it anymore.
Yeah, and it's
Um, it depends on what you do. If you need the bandwidth and you need to be like broadcasting live intertubes from your phone as a broadcast station, maybe you care about 5G, or maybe if you're mobile gaming, but eh, yeah. Yeah, Sharon's like, when you say existential nihilistic crisis, you're just describing all of Gen X. So,
I mean, but let's be honest. We've been triggered recently, haven't we? We've been like, see, Red Dawn was right.
but
We're
I think
just we're just like so deep into like
it's like The Matrix was right, Terminator was right,
I mean,
RoboCop was right.
well, they named that whole like Big Brother system Skynet.
Taco Bell is going to win the fast
restaurant
food wars. And then
and we're gonna have to use 3 shells, and I don't feel like I'm gonna be ready to use 3 shells.
I don't think so.
Honestly, the one that gets me that was right was the sunblock. The level of sunblock that's now required.
You mean they also just listen to commercial tunes?
Heather Jacobs asked a very good art-related question. Do you have to sand down your canvas every time you gesso it? You don't have to sand down your canvas anytime you gesso it. The reason you would sand is to smooth the surface because you want a smooth surface for the application of your paint. And that's a preferential thing that you can have as an artist. It is not required. It is not required that you gesso your canvas. Those are all choices that you can make. What is required is those little N95 masks that we all had to have for COVID. You should have those in your art studio anyways. I had a grip before the pandemic hit. Not 'cause, well, John was a little bit psychic there, but because we have them for the art studio for safety, anytime you sand a canvas or spray anything, those little things should go on your face. That should just be a habit that you get into. Save a couple, keep a couple around. You put it on your face, you sand your art, put it on your face. You spray, varnish, put it on your face. Even if you're outside, put it on your face. What if that's my like, thing. Test 2 hearts. I'm with you on those thoughts, Cinnamon and John. I'm back to painting, and I love this great work. And then moderator Cat Yellow is like, oh no, Taco Bell. And then Sandy's like, we all walk around with Star Trek communicators.
Yeah, and transparent aluminum.
I need transparent aluminum in my life.
Yeah, did you know that was like,
A thing they did. Yeah, they can't stop.
And now just like Scotty, if you sat down in front of your computer and tried to use a keyboard, people might laugh at you.
Yeah.
It would be reasonable to expect you to be able to talk to your computer.
Yeah. We're getting there, aren't we? Oh my gosh, who has had Siri answer them when they weren't asking a question and say something that was actually really on point? I've had that phone answer me when I was just talking to my kids, and Siri's like, I know what you mean. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I've just decided that the robot overlords, I'm just too tired to do anything about them. That's where I'm at now. I'm just too tired to do anything about it. I don't have a super robot when I want it.
I'm going to get one of the Musk ones. I want one of the Tesla bots that look black and white, like they're wearing little suits.
What brand of sandpaper do you all use? 400 grit. 400 grit is a good grit of sandpaper.
You can wash out wet, dry sandpaper, use it again.
Yeah, you can. You can use it again and again and again and again. And then Michelin Powell says the robots are here. And Sandy agrees Alexa does it all the time too. Yeah. I do weird things like where I say mean stuff about the owner of Amazon. I do.
What's funny is
to Alexa. I just get
now. See, you have to remember we're in everyone's home, so we go, Alexa, what's the weather today? And like everybody's computer just answered right there.
Sharon O'Brien says, I'm always polite, so when the rise of the machines happens, they remember I was kind. And Brenda Smith says, did something happen with Taco Bell? Brenda, we were referencing a cult classic movie from the 1980s with Sylvester Stallone. 90s? Was it the 90s? It was Demolition Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 90s. It was like 90.
Demolition Man.
93. No, it was later than that. Maybe 92, 93. It was right in there.
Anyways, it's one of the great Sylvester Stallone roles, and
what's her name? No,
guy was frozen.
What's her name? The actress that was in that, because she was funny too.
Yeah.
Because she sang all the show
Sandra
tunes.
Bullock?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the early Sandra Bullock one too.
And the foam car.
Yeah.
Like that's all. Like man.
Oh, it was
gotta be careful. Those movies.
But movies that predicted the future accurately. Demolition Man. What was the precog one with Tom Cruise? What was it called with the precogs?
Oh yeah.
That one predicted the thing where the ads tracked you, like they tracked you and they advertised to you, the pop-up ads that were everywhere.
I wonder what it'll be like when we see Snow Crash, the movie. That'll be
probably disappointing to you because you didn't like the other one they remade. No. So you're always unhappy when they make your books into movies. You're never happy. You always feel like they leave the wrong.
Diamond's Age.
Diamond's Age. That would be good.
Fantastic.
Ready Player One. All right. 1993.
Yeah, 93. That sounds about right.
So sometimes people predict the future.
Alexa just answered me and everybody's home.
Sorry. Did you want to learn how to paint? I wonder how many unsubs I'm going to have on this video. Please don't unsub. I'm funny. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.